Hi,
Welcome to
Tzili.
Tzuzamen. Hey, Tzip.
Hi.
And Shmulik Hess, the CEO of Out for Change. Hi, Shmulik. What's Out for Change?
I just one correction, Chairman. There's another person
Chairman.
called
Okay.
Tzipi.
All right.
What is Out for Change? Out for Change is actually an organization that is dedicated to, in a holistic way, take care of anyone exiting the ultra-Orthodox community.
What do you
Basically,
mean holistic?
I'll explain. Holistic is basically exiting the Haredi or the ultra-Orthodox community is an immigration by essence. And as immigrants, these individuals experience hurdles and challenges that immigrants face when immigrating. And that's a lack of culture. In the ultra Orthodox case, it's a lack of education, basic education, and a lack of day to day skills to manage the daily life on the outside, if we can kind of describe it that way. So in Out for Change, we try to holistically treat or support individuals on the all around challenges that they face, be it education, be it work, be it career. In Israel, it's very
But how
important.
does it start, Shmulik? How do they hear about you? And once they come out with nothing.
Yeah, I'll
So
explain in a minute. And also, another important pillar that we take care of, and we've been taking care of it significantly, is the IDF. And IDF in Israel, at least, it's a very important catalyst of integrating into society. And to your question, how do they hear about us? So these days, it's quite easy. Any individual seeking to exit, to start
cross
thinking
the
about
line. Yeah.
it's a process. It's a long process. Maybe worth framing this discussion. I myself exited the Haredi community. I'm an ex ultra Orthodox individual, so I know this from personal experience. I personally experienced this many years ago, and at the time when I exited, internet wasn't a thing. There was no internet practically, so things were a little bit different. Definitely no smartphones, etc. And these days it's quite different. So it's not that difficult to hear about us, and anybody just, putting two words into Google will get to us pretty quickly.
Tell me
And
something. Um, you're speaking about the hardship of leaving the Haredi community. Uh, but one of the things that really I question is to what degree, when they go out, the fear take over, the fear not only of being abandoned by their families, but actually fear of being abandoned or by God, because they grew up to love God and really to love Him, not just to be afraid of Him, I think, something deep. And then to what degree the fear that God will be angry at them, that God will never forgive
You're
them.
talking about guilt.
No, I'm talking about something different than guilt. It's not guilt. It's really, God will never
But
forgive
hold
me.
on.
Something
Just
to do
tell
with
us,
guilt.
you know, walk us through a process like this and what happened when one's wants to cross the line and how it's going on.
so I don't think it's a one size fits all process. I think it's a very individual process. And to your referring, Tzipi, everything that you mentioned is valid, and it's there, and it's something that people deal with. Maybe before I answer the question on the process, and I can only testify to my own experience and hearing from others. There is a common denominator for everybody, because at the end of the day, it's more or less the same society, and the challenges are similar. we all face and deal with challenges a little bit different. At the end of the day, most of the people, okay, and I'm trying not to be too generalized here, are at the end of the day, when they finally execute the process and execute the decision, I think it's important to understand that these are very brave people. Not in the sense of facing combat or facing fire or whatever it is. It's all above that you mentioned. It's sometimes at a very high family price. Sorry, I've got a cold. It's cutting ties with community. It's leaving everything that you know, that you're comfortable and familiar with. But I kind of sometimes, tell the analogy to gay people. It's something that you, at the end of the day, you don't really control. It's within you, and the longer the process continues, the more you are very much unable to keep it inside or to contain it. And it's something that you must do. And I think everybody understands that today. So both sides understand that it's kind of an inevitable process. But again, you pay a price, sometimes a very significant price. But again, it's who you are, and you embark on that journey because you don't feel that you have any other choice. Fear of God, etc.
Yeah.
Fear of God, etc. It really matters of where you end up. Okay, there's many individuals that end up religious, but with a different look and a different way of living. But again, the core religious aspects of life haven't changed much. They keep Shabbos, they keep whatever it is, they keep kosher, and they wanna get a higher education, and they want to work as physicians, musicians, whatever it is. And they don't want to be contained into a very strict and controlled society. And it doesn't necessarily always mean that God is out of the question.
Is there any average age for those who?
Yes, there is an average age. The average age is usually we maybe before a disclaimer at Out for Change we only deal with 18 and above, because below that is minors and there's legal complexity there. But it's kind of 16, 17 to 25. That's the vast majority where it happens, and it's also intuitively understandable, right? That's the age where you're kind of really struggling with your identity and what you're going to do in the future, etc. And on one and second, it's an age I remember myself where you're willing to pay prices, be it exiting the Haredi community or enlisting to a very combat unit in the IDF, right? You don't really think on consequences at that age,
Yeah.
and you go for it.
But it's usually before they start a family.
It's usually before, although there are plenty of either families that the whole family exits or only one, and then it becomes very complicated with divorce procedures. That's also something that we support, where at least in Israel it's complicated. You have the Orthodox system and you have the legal system, and they're both legally acceptable, and it depends on where you get first, etc. And with kids, raising kids, one parent is this, one parent is that, and of course the Haredi community is very fundamental about where kids should be raised, etc. So yes, that causes problems as well.
There is an American director, Jewish. His name is Sandy Simcha Debuaski. I mean, something like this.
Okay.
He made two films about people who came out from the Orthodox community. The last one just is out now, and I saw it. It's people who left the Haredi community, but they are also gays. So it's a double edge. However, I forgot his first movie. I think everybody should see both films, everybody. But in the first one, the pain of
The first
changing
one
the
was many years
right,
ago,
yeah,
and it
right,
was about those who
yeah.
left the communities and didn't want to give up the families.
No,
And
it's
many
more the
families
biggest
gave
thing.
up on them.
Yeah,
And
but the
it was
biggest point of that film is the pain that the friction with God created. It's overwhelming how this was the main, by the way, in his opinion, is the most difficult element of walking away. The relationship, the friction, the pain, almost unbearable pain of not having God in your life. Not in the practice, not in the mitzvot. It's the deeper love.
I think that
I can understand.
the first one was talking about those Orthodox who wanted, they were all gays and they wanted to keep God in their lives, and the community didn't accept it. They wanted them to choose.
You speak
And
about the last one, the
no,
one,
the
the
first one. No,
Queen
no.
called.
I'm
But
talking about the first one.
I once think, wonder, mother love is eternal thing. Mother's love. If the mothers, you think, if the family decide to, to let not to have relationship with the one who left the community, do you think the mothers are also participating in this rejection, or
So
because
I'll answer the question twofold. One, let's start from where we are today. The cases where families disconnect with children leaving is scarce. It doesn't
oh,
happen much anymore.
wonderful,
Okay, so
wonderful.
we're in a good place now, and we at out for change, but regardless, we do a lot of work on that, and we've had a lot of joint sessions, etc., with families, with parents, etc. And it doesn't really happen much. It can happen. It's in kind of very segregated communities within the Haredi community, but it's not something common anymore. So that if anybody's worried that happens less and less. That's one. Second, I can tell you from my personal experience that at the time, so that's one. Second, I think it's true for any family, okay? Not only a Haredi family, but it's true for any family. We have our values, our virtues that we try to raise our kids with. And if we admit it or not, I'm speaking for myself right now, okay? Um, we are disappointed when they don't follow the path that we think is the best path for them, and that we all range our willingness to adopt ranges from individual. Some of us cannot, and some of us embrace whatever is thrown at us. In a Haredi family, there's something a little bit more than that. That's not only the way of life, there's consequences to the family of this habit.
Sisters.
Okay, so siblings have difficulties getting married. Kids have difficulties being accepted to certain schools, and so for girls, so for boys. So there's practical difficulties of one rotten apple rotting the entire box.
Right.
And there's a true dilemma for parents of what do we do with this? Do we risk and disconnect from a beloved kid? Okay, no question about it. But he's gonna rot in the whole box, and we just need to let go, or do we cope with it in a one way or another? So again, long story short, I think today most parents, most people, in one way or another, find a way to cope and to keep in connection and to keep a family. By the way, it's probably the worst challenge, the most difficult one for anybody leaving. Okay,
Right.
getting disconnected from your parents, from your siblings, it's torturous. It's pure misery. You can disconnect from a lot of things, from your family, kind of leaving and being on your own with no backup and no sense of roots and grounding, it's difficult.
You have adoptive family? You have families who adopt
It
them?
does, no adoptive family at the age of 18 can replace your mother. It's not,
Of course.
they can
But still, there
support,
is a place to
etc.
go on Friday.
Fine, that's great. Again, people in the family, and again, it doesn't happen much. But to your point, I think it's interesting, maybe in my case, but I think it's in a lot of cases because you mentioned the mother's internal love, etc. My mother, at the time, there was a debate in my family between my parents. I learned about it many years later of what to do. Okay, do we let him go and disconnect, or do we keep on as a family and embrace, etc.? It was my mother's opinion that we need to let it go. Okay,
Years
and
ago. How many years
this
ago?
is what is this? This is at least more than 30 years ago.
Wow.
Wow.
You look younger.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can tell it to me too, but it's okay. Let's go. Let's go.
So that was the case, and at the end of the day, my father at this case disagreed, and it was decided to keep on going, and we're a happy living family ever since. However, just give the point that it wasn't that my mother had any doubts about her love. She was an amazing mother throughout her life. It was She was very practical about it, and she was really scared about the price. I have 5 siblings, and she was really scared about the price she's going to pay with them.
And they're all Orthodox still today?
Yes,
And are you in touch with everybody?
with everybody.
Wow. Do you also welcome to your community or take care of those that their family became Orthodox and they don't want to be part of the
Something else.
families?
So we do. I think what we do have a lot of is the second generation of
Right.
Chosrim B'Tshuva.
Right.
Okay,
Born again.
there's a max exodus from that community, for all sorts of reasons. Because again, most people converting, I don't know what the right word here is in English, to ultra-Orthodoxism, whatever we'll call it, they don't really assimilate well in the Haredi community. Most of them.
The second class.
Yes, and the kids, they understand
The
that.
Sephardic.
But many of the kids don't want to become Orthodox, or they just want to leave the family, and the family many times give them up. And it's
All answers are true. I mean, there's everything.
Can I ask you a personal question?
I'm speaking for an hour now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but this is, I think it's a bit pushing. So I am not religious, or not, we are the only part of the family who are not religious, but I do say Modani, morning, evening. I cannot give up going to Kol Nidre or going on Rosh Hashanah to Shul. Many times I did go on Simchat Torah the last day. Do you still, Modani?
Yes, I do. And I do a few things. One, something that was important to me throughout the process. Let's start maybe one step behind. I don't have any bad feelings, any frustrations, or whatever the right word is, towards the Haredi community. They're my brothers and sisters, and practically brothers and sisters, and I don't feel any sense of anger or anything similar towards that community. That's one. So I'm not I'm not and haven't never been in a process of anti. So that's one. Second, I when I disconnected from the Haredi community, one, and maybe became a non-believer, okay, I still cherish Judaism in its broad essence. And I don't forget that in my case, my parents, my sisters and brothers, but in most of our cases, a generation, 2 generations ago, they were all Haredi, more or less. And that goes back, this heritage, this culture, this whatever it is, goes back 3,000 years. And that's my history. And this is, you mentioned Kol Nidre. This, if we would go back, I don't know, 800 years and go into a synagogue, they'd be saying the same words in the same way. And it's important for me to hand over that tradition, that culture to my kids. And me personally, I don't feel any conflict in the fact that I'm praying to a God I don't believe in. I mean, it just doesn't, somehow I don't find any contradiction with
Tell
that.
me something. So our great, fabulous, admirable new defense minister, we have a new one, right?
Katz,
Yeah. What his name? I forgot for a minute.
Israel Katz.
Katz. Yesterday said that we had such a great success, in the battle in Gaza and Lebanon, but in a major way, it's really
A
because
miracle.
by God.
Yeah. So what am I supposed to say about that? So the 7th of October was what?
That's because of the of us not being religious.
Okay, and then what happened?
Abandoning.
I'm not going to get into the rabbit hole. Okay, so first of all, I'm politicians are politicians.
But
I don't
this
give
is
them
really
much
stirring
credit.
our minds. It does engineer our mind. And if you go now to the army, there's so many who are practically now behave like religious people.
Well, first of all, you have many more religious soldiers. So
Right,
this
but
is
also
why,
those who are not are actually enjoying so much.
but that's why you take them at 18.
Yeah, but that's they have such happy, they all the time sing and dance. It's a bit.
Listen, there's something. First of all, I very much respect anybody that's religious throughout the whole range, and I think it's something very individual, and it's fine. One. Second, yes, I can understand the sense of community, the sense of belonging, the sense of whatever.
On certain
And I totally
levels,
respect it, and I don't feel um, threatened by it in any way. It really doesn't threaten me. Maybe because I feel at home in a sense. It's not something strange to me. It's not this foreign culture that I've never grew up with, and I don't really know what they're singing or what the words are, or where they're coming from. It's my childhood. So I don't have any problem with it. I can understand that, and we've seen this through history, humankind history, okay? That in times of trouble, people tend to look for God. And that's totally okay. And even if it wasn't okay, none of us are going to change it. So let's embrace. And that's without relating to whatever politician, what he believes and what he says, and that usually there's no connection between them. But people, that's fine. I never felt threatened. I've sent my kids to spend weekends at my sisters, at their cousins, where they practiced Haredi life for the entire weekend, and nobody they all came back from the devil, meaning nothing happened. There's only a lot of respect, both ways, by the way. I really, I mean, we're only one family, but I tell others as well. I feel that we're in a way a bridge of explaining both sides. I see my kids representing the other side of. I mean, there's a lot of Haredi become demons these days, right? And for some reasons or for some,
Basically because of the draft of the army.
It's understandable on one hand, but again, painting one entire group in a black paint and collectivizing.
How many of them draft? So few are drafted.
It's fine.
So most of them are against being drafted. So that's not a generalization.
No, but the
Israeli secular people don't have anything, I think, against Haredi except this one.
Few more things.
I beg to differ.
More things, Tzipi.
I don't think one I think I speak for myself just with my appearance is that I'm all for being drafted, and that was, by the way, the major motivation for me leaving.
Okay, I
I
guess
didn't leave. I didn't leave because I had a bad life. I had a loving family, a loving community. I was a good student. Nothing bothered me other than not being drafted. That was the only thing that kind of nudged me and was the ultimate decision to leave.
Shmulik,
Eventually,
is there any difference between each chatzer towards those who leave them, or it's in
sure, sure.
each community, there's many,
each
there are
community?
few from extreme, you know, like Gur, I think,
Because
whatever.
sometimes it's so rough and they make it so hard for them. What's the main differences between the community in Israel and outside of Israel, let's say the United States, because it's large?
So I don't speak as an expert because I'm not. I grew up in the US when I was a kid. That doesn't qualify me as an expert on the Haredi life in the US. I think the Haredi life in the US, there's two maybe little bit differences, but it's not.
They
I don't
shake
know how much it is
hands.
today.
The
What?
the man shakes hand with a woman, especially in
No, but I'm thinking on more
BNP.
on the fundamental practice. So there's extreme communities there as well, right? Satmar, etc., Williamsburg, Monsey, whatever. But and these days, in my times when I was a kid, the Haredi, the American Haredi were a little bit more liberal, and I know not liberal what you'd call liberal, but liberal in a Haredi perspective. But those gaps have closed right now, and I'm assuming, and I don't know well the Haredi community in the U.S. I'm assuming that it's very much similar in most perspectives.
But in Israel, more men go out of the community, Haredi community, or
Oh,
also women?
it's almost 50. It's almost 50
Oh,
50.
really? Women also?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? First of all, because the tradition, women are kind of submissive.
That's
They are
it's a
not, they
criticism
are
to
not
this.
educated to be independent, mostly. I'm general, generalizing it now. Although they are the only sector who study math and English and right.
So
But
for them, so for them, for instance, education is a little bit easier
right,
because they have the fundamentals. They learn math, they learn English, they learn
And I
basics.
think that computers era helped the Orthodox women to be able to
yeah.
get involved
Definitely.
out there because they
So there
work
are
on their
some
own.
good things
Yeah.
happening. I'm very happy that you said also that a lot of families, Haredic family, embrace the kids who go out. I mean, I'm really shocked. I didn't know that, and I'm so happy. You know,
I made you happy twice.
right?
You know, around 30 years ago, Boaz Yakin made a film about a girl who left her community. It was, I think, Price of Ruby, something like that. And many of the Orthodox community came to see the film. And in her case, they threw her out. She was really, they didn't want anything to do with her, and she left alone. She was left alone.
Times have changed. Times have changed.
That's right. So I hear what you say, and I know, and it was interesting that many Orthodox went to see it because they just wanted, it was just to be able to
So
watch something like this.
I'll tell you a funny anecdote. Many years ago, I think it was in the 80s. Amnon Levy wrote a book called Haredim.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, it was a blockbuster, and I don't have the numbers, but the vast majority of people that purchased it were Haredim. So Haredim have an obsession almost on how they're perceived at the outside.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising to me that they went to see the movie or went to buy a book that was written on them. For them,
It's a
it's
little
very
bit
important to
weird.
understand how they're perceived from the outside. And if you talk to any Haredi, 2 minutes within the discussion, I can guarantee that they'll grill you of what you think of them and not the opposite.
But
How
what?
how do you survive the organizations? What does it take? What do you do with literally with these people? What do you need?
What do we need? It's a difficult question that I don't know if I can answer directly. So let me say what we do. Again, we try to treat this as an holistic and kind of first stop, one-stop shop before you exit, or not before you exit, before you fully immerse yourself in the real world. Okay, and not necessarily you can. We see people throughout the process. So we have what we call living rooms in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, Haifa, and I think somewhere in the Negev, Beersheba, where it's kind of a WeWork for Yotzim, where if you're a student, if you're just trying to learn something, you can come in, no questions asked, sit in front of a computer, work, learn, drink coffee, eat, and have peers, partners, friends from your same background that you can discuss with them and share. That's one. We spend a lot of time and spending on lobbying, basically, because there's a lot of government programs and a lot of government money that go into the Haredi
Right.
world. And I'm not talking about supporting Bachurei Shiva. I'm talking about supporting Haredis for high tech, Haredim for whatever, and trying to move them to within the working force in Israel. The only problem is that it's only for Haredim.
Right.
But if you were a Haredi yesterday and a Haredi today, you face the same problems, the same lack of education, the same challenges. You're not eligible anymore. So that's something that we've been treating very significantly, and we've had significant successes.
Oh, really? With this government? Wow.
With this government as well, because there's politicians, and below that they have offices with civil servants that understand the need. One second, I'm not asking for favors. Okay, I'm trying to be a little bit dramatic and pompostic, like Katz maybe, but I'm representing a group of people that are seriously motivated to succeed and to contribute. So the ROI, the return on investment here is a no-brainer.
Yep.
We work with other organizations for education. We work with semi governmental organizations like Malag, with the universities. We work with companies. We have social workers that help direct towards career. Okay, I'm out. What do I do with my life now? What is right for me? How do I know what I like? So we have lessons in computers, in English,
how about sex?
1 minute, we'll get to sex. Any discussion to end up with sex. With theater, with writing, creative writing. So I've met kids that want to be dancers, kids that want to be singers, kids that want to be painters, kids that want to be computer scientists. There's everything out there. And we try to offer kind of a buffet of all the possibilities in a professional way, in a supportive way, where the end goal is to kick them out, which is kind of counterintuitive. Is we're not a place where you get dependent of. We're here to build you, support you, give you the confidence, give you the tools, and get out of here and make a life, a good one, a successful one. And that's more or less the strategy.
Blessing.
Wow. Amazing.
Blessing.
Sex. You wanted to talk about sex.
Yeah.
And we'll end up with death, because any conversation between human beings ends up with sex and death.
And money.
But sex, yes, sex is an issue. It's a significant issue. It's a delicate issue. It's a sensitive issue that we take seriously. And it's a task that we don't underestimate. It comes from both sides. One is lack of knowledge. And you know, maybe before sex, we've jumped ahead the foreplay here. It's the relationships between men and women, okay? And there's you're someone that lives in a community that everything is forbidden. Everything is forbidden. You're
Like
looking to
Polish
the
mothers,
outside. What?
like most Polish mothers, everything in this world is to kill you.
Yes. So you look at nothing's allowed, right? You can't. You're a boy, for instance. You can't talk to women. You can't touch women. You can't talk about women. Everything is forbidden. You look at the outside, and everything seems to be okay. There's no rules. It's hectic. It's anarchy, and that's one. And people exit, and they don't really know what the rules are, and there are rules. Okay, we all know there are rules. But if you're not raised into those rules, it's very difficult to identify them. Okay, and to be honest, I'm 52 years old today. I still don't understand the rules. Okay, I don't understand the rules. When do you shake a hand? When do you hug? When do you kiss? When do you embrace? When are you just being creepy? To date, okay, where my entire friends and my life is within the secular community.
But even in
I
the
don't really
secular
understand the
community,
rules.
it changes all the time.
Yeah.
What?
The codes are changing as we speak all the time.
Except if you're Trump.
It's very organic. Yeah. So the rules are different.
Nobody prepared us, Tzili,
No.
not for sex life, not for relationships.
No.
Nobody prepared us. Not because we couldn't think about it, because
I look at my kids, okay? I have kids that are aged now. I mean, aged. I have two 21-year-olds and two 15-year-olds. And to me, at least, it seems they intuitively understand the code.
I think so too.
Okay, it's they don't even have to think about it. I have to think about it every time.
Right.
Okay, they do it intuitively. Every time I have a connection, I need to kind of have that split second of this is the code right now, this is not the code right now, and I've been here for 30 years. It's something that's embedded in with you when you're little, when you're adolescent or whatever, and it's difficult. So that's something that we need to deal with, apart from just okay, sex education that maybe everybody today should go through, not only Haredi kids. But
by the way, you are doing a fantastic job. I wonder, are you dependent on contributions?
by what? Yes, first of all,
organization, of course.
yes, we are supported. I hope I'm not mistaken right now. About 85% of our income or is donations.
Wow.
And 15% is governmental, something around there.
It's marginal.
Yeah.
Shmulik, is any of your kids express the wish to become Orthodox?
No, and I'll give you my explanation. I'll give you my explanation. And I think it's true for both sides. I think extremism in any part, it has its own challenges for many reasons, but raising kids, I see it with people chozrim tshuva. Many of them come from families where anything related to religion was out.
Right.
There was no kiddush, there was no bet knesset, there was no nothing. Everything was there was nothing. And people they grow older and they lack or they crave that sense of belonging, of something that connects us all. I didn't raise my kids of hating anybody or anti anybody. I said I sent them to see they're in excellent relationships with their grandparents, with their aunts and uncles and cousins. I don't think they feel any kind of they were deprived of something. They weren't told something. We go to Bet Knesset on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchat Torah, whatever it is. Sometimes just so be it. We do kiddush. So I don't think they feel. I never speak of anti anything. Try to be not anti, and I hope they're not growing up to try to experience what Dad told us all those years that we shouldn't look into.
Yeah.
Tell me something. My son is getting married soon, and they chose a rabbanit, a female rabbi. What do you think?
I'm totally liberal. I have no problems with it whatsoever. I spent one Yom Kippur in the U.S. in Maine in a reform shul. It wasn't conservative. It was reform. It was for me. It was a cultural
Yes.
Experience.
difference. I have no problem. I think that again, I think Judaism should be a roof where everybody can live under.
Tzili?
I agree. I agree. Shmulik,
It
thank
was
you.
really enlightening
And good luck.
and encouraging.
And God bless you all.
Right.
It's
And
a mitzvah, big
yeah.
mitzvah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Great
You made
meeting.
our day.
And
Nice to meet you.
and see you all next week. Bye.